Okay, we're going to hear from our race winner. Our race winner is Kevin Harvick, and he drives the number 4 Jimmy John's Chevrolet for Stewart Haas Racing. Kevin, 8 wins here at Phoenix International Raceway. You're the all-time leader in the Sprint Cup Series at this racetrack. Your 32 career wins, won 5 out of 6 here at Phoenix, and that margin of victory, .010, is the closest in the history of this racetrack, tied for 7th closest in the history of Sprint Cup Series since the advent of electronic scoring.
I got a few in that category.
Yes, you do. So
why we need to make it so dramatic?
Congratulations. Talk about this win and you know everything that went into the last few laps, the strategy, what you're thinking, of course, what Rodney's thinking, and then how you raced there at the end.
Well, I guess we can start with Ian. I had no idea that the cars behind me had 2 tires. I never asked. I just figured I was going to be on defense regardless, just for the fact that I don't even know who was 3rd, but you know everybody wants to win a race, and you know especially at these corners where you have the high braking situations, you're pretty vulnerable. So you know I probably went a little bit too much on defense, just for the fact that you know if I got hit, I wanted to be able to drive out of the slide instead of wind up with the fuel cell into the wall. So you know I made it. You know I think that the theory was. After talking to Rodney, was definitely to stay in control of the race, because the restarts can get a little bit hectic as you get into turn 1. So you know I got a good restart, got through 1 and 2 good, got through 3 and 4 fairly well, and you know they told me that the 19 was back there, and I thought I could beat him through 1 and 2 on the last lap there, but I knew I was going to have to be on defense because he beat me through the center of 3 and 4 all day. So. I was fully expecting everything that I got, but I just needed to be able to get knocked up the track far enough to be able to put the throttle back down. So maybe a little bit too defensive. I missed the bottom, you know, with the way that the rubber had built up on the racetrack. It just kind of walked up the track, and he was able to hold the bottom and able to get to the left rear. And you know I felt like I got back to the throttle even soon enough to be able to hold him off, but I was kind of a couple feet behind, and was able to kind of scrub against his door a little bit to slow him back down. And by the time he'd realized that he was going to be behind and we had carried the momentum by him, we were at the start finish line. So fun finish. I think as drivers and as a sport, that's really the benefit, one of the benefits of the low downforce package and the tire situation. The tire situation, being the biggest thing is so that you have those different strategies with the late cautions, to where you have 2 tires, you have no tires, you probably have 4 tires, I'm sure, to have the comers and goers and the exciting finishes. So that is exactly what we're all looking for finishes and strategy as you look at the low downforce and the soft tires.
Thank you, Kevin. We'll take a few questions. We'll start here with Reed and then go to Tom. Go ahead right here, please. Reed and then Tom.
Reed Spencer with NASCAR Wire Service. Carl said that basically he meant to move you, but he didn't want to hit you hard enough to wreck you. I would assume that from your point of view, everything was done as it should have been today.
I would have done the same thing, and that's really, after the race, that's exactly what we said to each other. That's really what NASCAR racing is all about. You're coming to the checkered flag, and he wants to win for his team, and I want to win for my team, and there's a lot on the line. So, it's definitely, the way that things should have been done. And, I fully expected it going into turn 3 and would have done the same thing.
Let's go to Tom. Tom and then Jim.
Hi, Kevin. Tom Jensen, FoxSports.com. Congratulations on the victory. You've been down this road with Rodney before on the tire call at Homestead when you won the championship. When the race is on the line, do you totally trust him, or do you guys have back and forth on it? And
I never asked today. It's just, and I never asked at Homestead. The year we won the championship, I just, Rodney and I talked about that before we ever ran a race. Unless there's something wrong, I don't have the type of information that he and Dax have sitting up on top of that pit box, and losing control of the race and putting yourself in traffic is it's a tough spot to be in, because we've lost a lot of races, dominate races, and what happens is the field is just waiting to see what you do. They're going to do the opposite. That's 9 times out of 10 when you dominate those days, which we have a lot over the past 2.5 years or 2 years, whatever you want to call it. We've been in a lot of these situations to where we've lost races just because the strategy just doesn't work out. But when you have half the field that's on the lead lap do the opposite of what you do, well, that's just what they're going to do. If we pit right there, half the field stays out, and that's we're just in that type of position, and I'm glad we're in that position, because our cars are fast, and that's the only way they're going to beat us on days like that when it's all going well. And it was just better for us to keep control of the race than it was to put it in somebody else's hand and hope you get a good restart.
We'll go to Jim and then to Mike Embry and Bob Pockris.
JimMutterMotorsport.com. Rodney was talking about there were some things, I think he said in practice and qualifying, and even one time an adjustment in this race where he tried things that have worked for you guys in the past that didn't work this weekend. I wondered, as someone who has won here multiple times and in many fashions, in driving this race today with this package and driving the track, did you find that it did things differently than you have experienced in the past?
There wasn't, other than the guys on the team, there wasn't much that was the same. I felt like Friday we were okay. I felt like we were pretty good in race trim. I felt like our qualifying runs in practice were good, and we got to qualifying and couldn't even drive it. It was so loose. So, that happened last week at Las Vegas as well. So there's just a different thought process with you take 30% of the downforce off the car. Things are just going to be different. We haven't been that close to really anything that we've run. So winning this race is going to allow us to really start to hone in on characteristics, different things that because it's going to be different. We have a new race engineer that we also have to add into that mix with Dax, who's done a great job, but he was out at Atlanta. That's one race that we didn't even. He was sick. Last week I was useless. Just didn't really even want to make a lap in the car, let alone race the car. So we've had a couple of speed weeks was fine, but I think as you look at the last 2 weeks, everything's just felt out of sync. There's so much different. We've had pieces missing. We got our jackman back today, who's he was out with surgery. Felt like the pit stops were great today. So there's just been a lot of things that have happened that we've just just felt clunky to me, just for not anything in our control. Just because of circumstances. But I think that's the great part about our team is we're able to overcome things like that. We've still been competitive every week, but it hasn't been like today. We didn't qualify well, but, we've qualified 12th, 18th, 16th, 17th, whatever it's been. We're either on the pole or we're in that neck of the woods when it comes to qualifying. It's just a hard place to qualify and get it all right. So we've had a lot of circumstances that we've had to overcome. So winning today is really going to allow us to really hone in on what are the characteristics of the 1.5-mile tracks, what are the characteristics of the flat tracks, allowing Dax to get up to speed and really understand all the tools that are different from everything that he had at Michael Waltrip Racing for the last however many years. So there's just a lot of things that we still have to work through. And our team is, we've had to overcome some different things, but there's a lot of teams that have to do the same. Every team has to do the same thing, because I don't feel like anybody really knows exactly where we need to be, because it's a totally different mentality, in practice right now. It's not about how fast you go. It's really about how long can you go fast. And really working with that graph and trying to get the fall off in the car to stay where it needs to be. So it reminds me of where we were, 12, 15 years ago when we would practice. It wasn't who was the fastest. It's who could go fastest the longest.
Let's go to Mike Embry, then we'll go Bob Pockris and David Scott.
Mike Embry, USA Today. Kevin Carl was barely ahead of you in that last stretch. Did the last side-to-side contact ultimately make the difference in you having the margin?
Well, I felt like coming off of turn 4, I had some momentum, but I needed to do everything I could to try to scrub some momentum off of his car, and it just worked out timing, and I needed to get away. And by the time he realized that that I had that momentum, and he, tried to do the same thing, scrub the momentum off of my car. We were too far towards the start-finish line, so it all worked out. Sometimes I can tell you that planned it all that way, but sometimes you're just lucky as hell.
Bob Pockris.
Bob Pockris, ESPN. With this chase format, knowing that a win can, pretty much vault you in the playoffs, do you have any idea how much contact you'll have from, knowing how Carl Edwards races? Were you thinking, okay, he's going to be rough but clean but not dirty, or do you have no idea? And then secondly, if the positions are reversed in a few weeks, does the way he raced you today impact the way you race him?
I don't think there's any real love lost between the two of us. So, I knew that I was going to get hit, and I'm going to hit him, just in the same type of manner, just for the fact that I don't want to spit him out. But you definitely want to rough him up, because that's not the guy that I want to lose to, and I know he doesn't want to lose to me.
David Scott.
David Scott from the Charlotte Observer. Kevin, when did you realize you'd won the race? And also, do you feel like you have a psychological advantage over guys at this track now, heading into the race?
I thought I had beat him to the start-finish line, with where I thought I was, but sometimes our brains don't work exactly like they should inside the race car, and you don't really realize where you are or what you're doing. So, but as far as the other guys, I mean, I don't really know. I fully expect to come here and beat them. I know that you leave here and you don't win, you're disappointed. We had the rain situation last time, and we were all fairly distraught over the situation and not winning the race. So it's a pressured situation that when you come here, your team and your guys and yourself, you expect to be in contention to win the race, but sometimes circumstances dictate exactly what happens at the end of the race. So in the end, it's been a really good racetrack for us, and let's keep riding the wave.
Let's go with Jerry. Go ahead, Jerry.
Jerry Jordan, Kicking the Tires and Performance Racing Network. Can you talk about the endurance out there today? A lot of guys were wiped out, and I talked to Austin. He said they were exhausted after the race. Can you talk? You didn't have any of that?
My feet never even got hot. I have a beer stench to me, but I don't know that there's much sweat there. But I think a lot of that is a credit to the race team. I think as you look at the precautions that our guys take, they don't, a half a pound or 0.3 of a pound is not something that they're going to leave a footbox shield or something out because it's March. We're going to be overcautious on keeping the inside of the car cool, and they've really been conscious of that, just for the fact that I hadn't been feeling well the last 2 weeks. So they came here with what we normally wouldn't have, with an air conditioner in the car and the footbox completely insulated and those types of things, just based upon how I felt last week. So I felt good though. We're gonna drive 4 hours to Vegas, spend the night. Yeah, you want to go?
Go ahead, Chris.
You'll be with us.
Chris Knight, catchfence.com. Congratulations.
What do you think we should push it all in on black or red?
Whatever you go with is good, because it'll probably win. So go ahead.
Like Jim Utter says, go big or go home.
That's right. Says the guy who never probably bets anything.
Oh, he bets. He cleans you out, I promise you.
Go ahead, Chris.
Chris Knight, catchfence.com. Rodney said next week at Auto Club he wasn't really sure what to expect yet. He says you guys have some work to do on the setups, and you're taking the car that you won with at Dover next weekend. How do you feel about going to Auto Club after finishing second last
I have no idea
year?
what car they're taking. I never ask them.
Dover.
I never ask them what they're putting in for a setup. I know that I'm going to be on the top seam throwing dust when practice starts. So I think as you look at that particular race, that's been one of our best races over the years, and I think every driver in the garage is looking forward to racing this particular package at California, because it's going to be, there's been a lot of chatter about it. You can race on the top, you can race on the bottom, and I think it's going to be pretty exciting. So I know all the drivers seem to be really excited about it. I know I'm excited about it, and really looking forward to what happens, because the cars are going to be out of control, which is exactly what we're looking for.
We'll end on that. Again, Kevin, congratulations. It was a great race out here today, and best of luck at Auto Club.
Thank you.